Hey everyone, welcome to VibeSense. Today, we're diving into something huge, the big shakeup in America's H-1B visa program. And we're going to focus on what it all means for the group that's most affected by far, professionals from India. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so first, let's set the scene a bit. Think of the H-1B visa as this crucial pipeline, right? It brings skilled tech talent into the US. But here's the crazy part. That pipeline is almost entirely filled by people from just one country. We're talking about Indian nationals getting almost 3/4 of all H-1B visas. That's not just a majority, it's a huge deal. It means that any little tweak to this program feels like an earthquake in India.
And you've got to understand, for years and years, the H-1B has been the absolute lifeline for Silicon Valley. It's how American tech companies have been able to grab the best engineers, the smartest developers, basically the top minds from all over the world to keep innovation humming.
But here's the catch. This lifeline isn't infinite. There's a hard cap. Only 85,000 new visas are given out each year. Now just think about that number for a second. Because the number of people applying, it can be 3, even 4 times that amount. So yeah, calling it competitive is kind of an understatement. The stakes are incredibly high.
So what exactly is an H-1B visa? Well, in simple terms, it's a temporary visa for jobs that need very specific skills. They call them specialty occupations. We're talking about roles in things like engineering, IT, medicine, jobs where you definitely need a specialized degree. The whole idea was to fill gaps in the US workforce with talent that was hard to find at home.
Okay, so that's the system we've all gotten used to. But now, everything's changing. The Trump administration is basically tearing up the old rulebook and writing a new one. And this isn't just a minor update, it's a fundamental shift in who gets to work in America and how.
You can really boil it down to 5 massive policy shifts. First, they're moving to a system based on wages. Second, that random lottery? Gone. Third, there's this new good moral character clause. Fourth, no more interview waivers. And finally, it's getting way harder for employers to prove they need to hire someone from abroad.
Out of all those changes, the biggest one, the real game changer, is ditching the lottery for a wage-based system. The old way was kind of like a raffle, If you had the right qualifications, your name went into a hat and you had a fair shot. The new system, it's more like an auction. It automatically prioritizes the jobs with the highest salaries. So if you're a top-level exec at Google, great. But if you're a fresh grad or you're trying to get a job at a cool new startup, well, you're pretty much pushed to the back of the line.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. On paper, these rules apply to everyone, from every country. They're what you'd call nationality neutral. But in the real world, the impact is anything but even. These changes are hitting one group way harder than anyone else, Indian professionals.
So the big question is, why? Why are Indian nationals feeling the squeeze the most? What makes them so vulnerable to these new rules? Let's get into it.
Well, it's really like a perfect storm of factors all hitting at once. For starters, just look at the numbers. Since they get the most visas, any cut or change is going to affect them the most. Simple math. Then, you've got the fact that Indian professionals are the absolute backbone of the US IT industry, and that industry relies a lot on middle-level workers, not just the super high-paid execs. And on top of all that, they're already stuck in this insane, decades-long waiting line for green cards, so this new uncertainty is just piling on the stress. And of course, the new wage system, right? It's a direct hit on the steady stream of talented young graduates coming from India.
And, this is where policy starts to blend with politics. The official line from the administration is that these changes are all about protecting American jobs. But then you hear the rhetoric from some allies. For example, there's this quote from Laura Loomer, a Trump ally, who said they are taking American jobs, specifically about curbing H-1B visas for Indians. That kind of talk really fuels this whole narrative about them being cheap labor that's pushing Americans out of the workforce.
This political talk isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening alongside a real increase in enforcement. Now, this isn't about the H-1B program itself, but get this. In the first half of 2025, an average of 8 Indians were deported from the US every single day. That kind of thing creates this climate of fear and worry, even for people who have followed all the rules and are here completely legally.
And these changes, they're not just about individual people and their careers. They're sending huge ripple effects across entire economies. You're seeing the consequences pop up everywhere, from the boardrooms in Silicon Valley all the way to the tech campuses in Bangalore.
So what you end up with is a whole new map of winners and losers. Who's winning? Well, the giant tech companies that can throw around huge salaries, and the very top-tier senior talent they're hiring. Who's losing? Startups, for sure, smaller companies, and those big Indian IT service firms, not to mention all the new graduates and mid-level workers. But maybe the biggest winners of all are other countries. Places like Canada, the UK, and Australia are basically rolling out the red carpet for all the skilled people the US might be pushing away.
And all of this leads to a really massive question. Could we be on the verge of a great tech migration? I mean, for decades, the US has been the place to go for the best and brightest in tech. No question. But that might be changing right now.
So what's India doing about all this? Well, they're definitely not just sitting back and watching it happen. The Indian government is on a major diplomatic push, talking to US lawmakers. They've even offered to take back thousands of undocumented Indians, sort of as a goodwill gesture. And at the same time, you've got India's powerful tech lobby NASSCOM, pushing hard to keep the doors open for skilled workers.
So what does the future hold? Well, the timeline looks pretty stark. Right now, in 2025, it's all about uncertainty and delays. By 2026, we expect this whole wage priority system to be fully up and running. And after that, the H-1B visa, that classic path to the American dream, it just might not be a real option anymore for a whole generation of talented middle-class professionals from India.
Which brings us back to the biggest question of all. The whole point of the H-1B visa from the very beginning was to keep America on the cutting edge. So, if these new rules start pushing the world's best talent to find new places to call home, what happens to Silicon Valley? Will that incredible engine of innovation finally start to sputter?
Thanks for watching VibeSense.